Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really plunging into, well, an extraordinary life, Thomas Merton. He's one of those 20th century spiritual writers whose work, continues to resonate deeply.
Absolutely. A huge figure.
And if you've ever been intrigued by just how profoundly someone can change, Merton's story is, well, it's quite something. Our focus today is his dramatic spiritual conversion.
A really radical shift.
Totally. From this restless, very intellectual, very worldly young guy to becoming a Trappist monk. We're going to trace this journey step by step, mostly using his own words from his huge bestseller, The Seven Storey Mountain.
Which is such a cornerstone text for understanding him.
Exactly. And it's more than just his story, isn't it? It feels
Mhm.
like a timeless classic, this account of finding contemplative silence, I guess, in the middle of all the noise of the modern world.
That's the core of it, yeah.
And you think about why it still appeals. It taps into something universal, right? That search for meaning beyond just the surface stuff, the struggle with our own egos, which we all have, and, looking for a deeper purpose.
Mm-hmm. The perennial quest.
So for you listening, think of this deep dive as a way to get inside a really profound life change. Hopefully it offers some insights into that spiritual longing many of us feel, and maybe the radical choices people sometimes make to answer it. It's powerful stuff, even now.
It really is. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how Merton's very personal choice, entering a monastery, actually speaks to this much broader human quest. You mentioned self-knowledge, transcendence.
Right.
And it was, in its way, deeply countercultural, especially thinking about it in what Charles Taylor called our secular age. Committing like that, it can seem almost baffling to some.
Sure. A radical departure.
And what we often see in conversions like Merton's, whether they're sudden or gradual, is this fundamental shift. A shift in how you understand yourself, how you understand reality itself.
How so?
Well, drawing from thinkers who explore the perennial philosophy, it's often framed as moving from, let's say, a relative reality, the everyday world, our desires, the ego's demands, towards an absolute reality, something deeper, more fundamental. So that's what we'll do. We'll trace this dramatic shift in Merton. Look at his early life, those moments of awakening, the steps he took. It's quite a reorientation.
A complete reordering, really.
Exactly. More than just changing beliefs, it's changing his whole way of being.
Okay, so let's start there. Back in his early days, paint us a picture of his time at Columbia University. Because in the book, he's pretty upfront about how he saw himself then, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He talks about feeling like a big success.
Yeah, he writes, everybody knew who I was at Columbia. Those who had not yet found out soon did when the yearbook came out, full of pictures of myself. You really get that sense of youthful confidence, maybe arrogance.
A bit of swagger, yeah. He
Yeah.
definitely felt he was somebody important in that world. The center of his own universe, perhaps.
But then the shift comes when he looks back. That self-awareness is striking. He calls it his ignominious vanity.
Yes, that phrase is powerful.
He looks at those same yearbook pictures and sees his dumb, self-satisfied expression. And he seems genuinely amazed, almost ashamed, that no one openly reproached or mocked me for it.
Right. He knew his peers could be sharp. He even says something like, they were capable of saying words, maybe not tasteful, but deadly enough.
So he's admitting he was kind of lost in this illusion he'd built around himself.
Precisely. A self-deception. And it clearly caused him real discomfort later on. He was caught in this performance of success.
And that early self-image, that focus on I and me, it connects really well to what Eckhart Tolle talks about with the ego, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Tolle, in A New Earth, describes the ego not just as simple vanity, but as this deeper identification with form. Seeking yourself, but losing yourself in some kind of form.
And form isn't just physical things.
No, crucially, Tolle includes thought forms, that constant stream of thinking, the internal chatter that grabs all our attention. When you're totally identified with those thoughts and the feelings they bring up, that's being, as Tolle puts it, in the grip of ego.
Okay. And he calls it a forgetfulness of being, when your sense of just being, that formless consciousness, gets tangled up with these temporary forms like thoughts or roles or possessions.
And that leads to...
It creates, Tully says, an illusion of absolute separateness that turns reality into a nightmare. Which might sound extreme, but it could really describe Merton's inner state then, couldn't it? Despite the outward success, lost in his own narrative.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's this echo in older wisdom, too. Theologia Germanica, that medieval text, puts it so bluntly. The more of self in me, the more of sin and wickedness.
Wow.
And conversely, the more the self, the I, the me, the mine, abate in a man, the more doth God's eye, that is, God himself, increase in him. It frames Merton's later path, perfectly shedding that self-centered view to make space for something else.
Something divine.
Exactly, a fundamental reordering.
And this internal struggle, Merton himself eventually confronts it head-on. He reaches this point, this real turning point, and declares, "Such was the death of the hero, the great man I'd wanted to be." That's such a pivotal line.
It feels like more than just reflection. It's like he's writing an epitaph for that old self, that old ambition. He's consciously letting it go, seeing its emptiness.
It's a deliberate shedding of a skin, yes. And that phrase, the death of the hero, it really echoes across different spiritual paths, doesn't it? It's often seen as this necessary transformation.
Like Siddhartha.
Precisely like Siddhartha in Hermann Hesse's telling. Siddhartha realizes at one point that all his striving, his knowledge, even his self-discipline had just become another form of ego.
Right, he was still full of himself, in a way.
Exactly. Hess writes, too much knowledge had held him back. Full of arrogance, he had been always the smartest. His self had retreated. There it sat firmly and grew, while he thought he would kill it by fasting and penance. A really sharp insight.
So what does Siddhartha do then?
Well, he felt he had to do something drastic. To go out into the world, lose himself to lust and power, to woman and money, become a merchant, a dice gambler, a drinker, until the priest and samana in him was dead.
Wow, that's extreme. Deliberately diving into the opposite.
It's a vivid picture of trying to kill off that old identity, right? By completely exhausting it. And it parallels Merton's internal move away from his own worldly goals and vanity. Just like Siddhartha needed to destroy that old self.
Merton needed to let go of the great man.
Yes. And the result for Siddhartha? A new Siddhartha had woken up from the sleep. It suggests that same kind of spiritual rebirth for Merton, coming through confronting and letting go of that earlier self-absorption. It's not just improvement, it's a complete awakening.
So after this death of the hero, we start seeing these, well, stirrings of something new in Merton. The first signs of grace pulling him in a different direction.
The beginnings of a new life.
And a big sign was this growing desire, almost a need, for daily communion.
A real hunger.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy for him. He mentions the practical side. It was too far from town to go down to communion every morning. I had to hitchhike down.
Think about that effort. Hitchhiking every day for communion.
It really shows a massive shift in priorities, doesn't it? Choosing spiritual nourishment over convenience. He was literally going the extra mile or many miles to feed something deep inside.
Something the intellect couldn't satisfy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that led to another decision, staying at St. Bonaventure's over the summer, which sounds like a very different vibe from Columbia.
Radically different, yeah.
He describes living in a big, dilapidated room in the gymnasium with other students and seminarians doing odd jobs around the place, like being telephone operators or garage hands.
A far cry from the esteemed intellectual life.
Totally.
Yeah.
It feels like a very deliberate choice for simplicity, for being near a spiritual center, for a quieter life. It's more than just moving locations. It's like his outer life was starting to reflect this inner change.
Shedding those old trappings.
Yeah.
And this pull towards communion, towards a simpler, more devout life, it connects to that idea of an internal guidance system, doesn't it? Something explored in conversations with God.
Yeah.
The idea that this system is built into you, showing you the way home.
So life itself becomes a tool.
A tool for God to turn concept into experience, as the text puts it. Merton was starting to really live his faith, not just think about it. He was actively heeding that inner call.
Right. Turning concept into experience.
And you can also see this through the lens of the Bhagavad Gita, the idea that our consciousness gets materially contaminated by the world and needs purification.
Purification
through bhakti, which means devotional service, purified activities. And what's fascinating here is seeing Merton's actions, the hitchhiking, the humble living, the simple jobs aligning perfectly with this inner shift. These weren't just random acts, they were becoming acts of bhakti.
His outer life reflecting the inner turn towards devotion.
Exactly. It embodies that instruction from the Dhammapada. Refraining from all that is detrimental, the attainment of what is wholesome, the purification of one's mind. He was actively walking that path, cleansing mind and action.
So all these small steps, these choices, they build up to this growing conviction in him. And a new kind of honesty, right? A vulnerability we didn't see before.
Definitely. That self-importance starts to dissolve.
There's that conversation he recounts with Father Master. He has to admit he'd only been baptized 3 years earlier.
Which might have seemed like a short time, perhaps.
Right. He says, "How long is it since you were baptized?" said Father Master. 3 years, Father. But the father master wasn't disturbed. He apparently just liked the way I had told him all that there was to be told and said he'd talk to the abbot. That was it.
That simple honesty is telling.
It really is. Compared to the ignominious vanity earlier, it's night and day. He's not posturing anymore. He's just present, open, vulnerable, willing to show his spiritual newness or maybe past failings.
That authenticity is key. It echoes Catherine of Siena talking about her own defaults of knowing, hoping for mercy for her ignorance. It's that humility entering the picture.
And this leads to him spending more time near the monastery, even before joining, staying in the guest house, getting into the rhythm.
Yes, dipping his toes in, so to speak.
He writes about waxing floors with someone he calls the fat boy from Buffalo, going to church, kneeling while the monks chanted the office, eating simple meals like scrambled eggs and cheese.
It's an immersion, isn't it? Not just watching, but participating. Feeling the discipline, the peace, the structure.
Aligning himself with it.
Exactly. These aren't just chores. Waxing floors, attending the office, sharing meals in that context, they become part of the purification. They foster mindfulness, detachment. It's bhakti in action again, preparing him for the deeper contemplative work.
So after this period of sort of quiet preparation, feeling it out,
Testing the waters.
he makes the big decision. He says he intends to enter the order in August. This isn't just maybe, perhaps. It's definite.
A firm commitment. And his friend, Mark Van Doren, saw it clearly as leaving the world.
That phrase carries so much weight, doesn't it? Leaving the world. It's total renunciation. His intellectual life, social life, ambitions, all set aside for this spiritual calling.
A complete shift in allegiance, dedicating everything to God.
And this commitment, this leaving the world, it's all aimed at that contemplative silence you mentioned earlier.
Fundamentally, yes. That's the core of monastic life, especially the Trappist tradition he chose. The cloud of unknowing, that mystical text, explains it so well.
How does it put it?
It says, "Of God himself can no man think." Meaning, you can't grasp God purely with the intellect. And therefore, I would leave all that thing that I can think and choose to my love that thing that I cannot think.
So choose love over thought.
In a way, yes. For why? He may well be loved, but not thought. It's about knowing through love, through direct experience, which goes beyond what the mind can formulate. Merton was choosing that path, the heart over just the head.
And this working in love, the text says it's meant to repair us.
Yes, it's seen as a way back to our essential nature, a continual working in this work only, to rise higher and higher from sin and nearer unto God. It's a constant process of stripping away the non-essential.
Which sounds like incredibly hard work mentally.
Oh, absolutely. It demands immense discipline, very similar to what the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali describe.
How so?
The sutras talk about how by restraining his mind and emotions, a yogi gets conquest over them, recognizing that the mind naturally wanders its subsiding and emerging nature. But the yogi can find relief by focusing differently, even using breath control, pranayama, to freeze the mind.
That's so intense mental training to achieve that deep silence.
Exactly. It's an active, rigorous path, not passive at all.
That this kind of life, this level of discipline, it does feel like an impossible possibility for most people. C.S. Lewis touches on this, right?
He does, very insightfully. Lewis points out that things like perfect chastity, like perfect charity, will not be attained by any merely human efforts.
You need help.
You must ask for God's help, Lewis says. It acknowledges our limitations. We can't just willpower our way to perfection. And he adds that the process itself is crucial. He says, it trains us in habits of the soul which are more important still. It cures our illusions about ourselves and teaches us to depend on God. It's about learning humility, reliance on grace, not just achieving the virtue itself. Merton's whole story seems to embody that dependence.
Yeah, you can see that arc.
Absolutely. And this links to what the theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer called the daily dying to the old self.
Daily dying.
Yes. He wrote, "The cross to which we are called is a daily dying in the power of the death which Christ died once and for all." It emphasizes that monastic commitment isn't a one-off conversion, it's ongoing, a constant letting go of ego, of worldly ties.
Moment by moment.
Precisely. There's a resonance, too, with Ram Dass's experience with his guru, Neem Karoli Baba.
What was that?
Ram Dass talks about being aware of his own horrible thoughts and impurities, yet his guru looked at him with just total love. Loving, as Ram Dass put it, that in me which was behind my personality and behind my body.
Seeing beyond the surface flaws.
Exactly. That kind of unconditional acceptance, seeing the true self behind the ego, that's likely part of the profound transformation Merton found in the monastery. shedding the outer layers to find that authentic core.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a bit more. Merton's leaving the world. It really forces us to ask, what's truly important?
A fundamental question.
And Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, had a really interesting take that seems to fit here. He said something like, of all people, only those are at leisure who make time for philosophy, only those are really alive.
And for Seneca, philosophy wasn't just academic.
No, it was a whole way of life, right?
Yeah.
Engaging with big questions, cultivating wisdom. So Merton, by stepping away from all the world's noise and demands, was essentially making time for his own profound philosophy, one rooted in God and contemplation, choosing to be really alive by focusing on ultimate reality.
Prioritizing the inner world. And that choice, that dedication to contemplation, directly connects to finding the true self beyond the ego's illusion. Sam Harris talks about this in Waking Up.
What's his point?
Harris argues that the conventional sense of self is an illusion. And he says spirituality is largely about realizing this, moment to moment, often through practices like meditation, which aim to cut through the illusion of the self.
So Merton's monastic life was, in a way, an intensive practice for cutting through that illusion.
You could definitely see it that way. A lifelong discipline to strip away the conditioned personality and ego, to connect with something more fundamental, more real, true being.
And Harris also suggests these practices help escape psychological suffering.
Yes. He notes they offer a way to escape the usual tides of psychological suffering, fear, anger, shame, in an instant. Think back to Merton's ignominious vanity and the angst it caused him.
Right.
For him, this path wasn't just about faith. It was likely also a very practical way to find deep, lasting peace. Liberation from that internal turmoil. A profound shift from noise to inner quiet.
So as we look towards the end of this deep dive, let's consider the legacy, the fruits of this conversion. The Seven Storey Mountain mostly covers the journey to the monastery.
Yes, the conversion itself.
But we know, as Mark Van Doren apparently always expected, that Merton would become a writer. And many, many books followed.
Prolific and incredibly influential.
Those later writings, which guided so many people, really grew out of that contemplative life he embraced, didn't they? The transformation allowed this new, compassionate, insightful voice to emerge.
Absolutely. The depth came from the silence, in a way. And that whole journey from ego-driven youth to contemplative monk, it really embodies a fundamental shift Marianne Williamson talks about.
Which is?
She says unconditional love is the death of the ego, and that a miracle is an authentic switch from fear to love. Merton's life looks like a living example of that switch, shedding the ego's fears and anxieties for a deeper, unconditional love.
Letting go of the fear of not being good enough, perhaps.
Exactly. And Theologia Germanica again offers insight into why this path, though hard, is ultimately rewarding. It notes that following Christ's example is often distasteful and burdensome to nature. We naturally prefer comfort.
We want the easy way.
Right. The text says being God in eternity, or like Christ after the resurrection, seems easy and pleasant and comfortable. But embracing the struggle, the dying to self, that's the path Merton chose, moving beyond natural inclination for a higher purpose. True liberation often involves difficulty.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The ultimate goal, transcending the everyday, finding lasting meaning in our limited time.
The sense of urgency.
Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured that urgency so well. He wrote, "Don't form designs as if you were to live 1,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while you may become good."
A powerful call to action now.
Yes, not just be morally good, but maybe spiritually good, whole. Merton's radical choice feels like he took that completely to heart, dedicating every available moment to aligning himself with the divine, becoming good in that deepest sense.
And viewing his journey through an even wider lens, you could see it perhaps as Teilhard de Chardin might have, as part of an ascent towards consciousness.
Teilhard de Chardin, the paleontologist and priest.
Yes. In The Phenomenon of Man, he proposed that evolution is an ascent towards consciousness, moving towards some supreme consciousness, a state of hyper-reflection or hyper-personalization, all converging on a transcendent point he called Omega.
So Merton's personal journey reflects a larger cosmic movement.
In Teilhard's view, perhaps yes. His inward turn wasn't just personal salvation, but participating in this grand evolutionary thrust towards higher awareness. Teilhard believed it is only in the direction of hyper-reflection that thought can extrapolate itself.
Meaning contemplation is where thought reaches its highest potential.
Exactly. That Merton's intellectual gifts found their truest expression not in academia, but in the silence, reaching towards the transcendent. And this ideal isn't unique to Christianity, of course.
No, it's universal.
Think of the Upanishads. They describe the ultimate self as dustless, beyond space, unborn, great, steadfast. And how is it sought? Through study, sacrifice, giving, asceticism, fasting. Knowing it, one becomes a silent one.
A muni, silent one.
Yep.
Perfectly captures it.
It really does. It underlines the timeless, universal nature of the quest Merton undertook.
So wrapping this up, what does Merton's story mean for us today? His incredible transformation, detailed in the Seven Storey Mountain, it's clearly more than just one man's religious story.
Much more.
It feels like this powerful testament to our human capacity for really radical change. And it speaks directly to that deep longing many of us have, maybe buried under daily life, for inner peace, for real meaning.
A meaning the noisy world often drowns out.
Exactly. His story challenges us, you, listening now, to maybe look beyond the surface of your own life, to question what you truly value, and to think about the possibilities that might open up if you dared to, well, reconsider your own path.
And that brings us to a final, maybe provocative question to leave you with. If a life filled with what the world calls success, intellectual achievement, recognition wasn't ultimately enough for someone like Thomas Merton, what actually constitutes that lasting fullness of being that Eckhart Tolle talks about?
What truly satisfies.
Right. The power of now asks us to look at the forms we identify with our jobs, our roles, our thoughts, and to consider what it means to die to the past every moment, to let go of those identities and just feel the power of this moment and the fullness of being. Merton's death of the hero, his choice for silence, it really prompts us to ask, what forms am I identified with? How much of my sense of self is built on external things or just the endless chatter in my head? His journey invites you to explore whether seeking some form of contemplative silence or even just a deeper self-understanding might offer a real alternative to the noise and the compulsive thinking of modern life. It's an invitation to find that stillness, that deeper self beneath it all.